Hi everyone and welcome to the ninth Conversations with Daniel Powell presented by LA Racing Lubricants. Tonight's guest is probably one of the toughest and determined 410 sprint car racers that I've ever been lucky to meet. Andrew Wright. He's raced for 25 years now. He's just last season was a horror run for him where he had a lower back injury. Now he's come back this season, determined as ever and starting to see some results, most recently last Saturday night's podium finish in the Ultimate Sprint Car Championship Queensland round at Toowoomba's High-Tech Oil Speedway. So without further ado, I introduce Andrew Wright. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
No worries, Daniel. Thanks for having us.
So tell us a bit about, is determination your middle name?
I don't know really about determination, mate. It's just something that we do. I really love the sport of sprint car racing and speedway, and I want to be involved in it. So you've just got to, I suppose, make sacrifices and keep chipping away. It's a sport that doesn't give you anything. You've got to earn it. So we just keep plugging away and having some fun. And
what's the one thing that you love about speedway? There must be one thing that keeps you coming back for more.
Just the competition, really. The sprint cars, when you get them right and the speed they carry and how close you can race with the other cars, there's really nothing like it. It's hard to put into words. People, you try and tell people how much fun it is and how much adrenaline it gives you and what type of buzz you get. It's really hard to explain, but just the competitiveness of it, and it's something like I said before, it's just not easy. There is the challenge to it, the mental aspect of it, the mechanical side of it. It's just a great sport in general.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about where it all started for yourself. So your dad, Ray, raced sedans and then started in leader sprint cars before you. What's your earliest memory of Speedway?
I grew up with a dad raced sedans, hot rods, which turned into V8 dirt modifieds, and Grand Nationals, which are now late models. So I've been a Speedway kid virtually since I was born. So grew up around the sport, and then Dad raced super sedans and pretty well just sold the car one morning, and we had a year or so off, and then he bought a friend in Muswellbrook had a little leader car, and he had a drive of that, and he thought this was a bit all right. So the next thing, we had a leader car in the shed, and he said to me, you build it, and then when you're old enough, you can have a drive of it. So yeah, that's where my racing started.
So obviously you would have seen a lot of sedan racing around the Newcastle Motordrome, being from Muswellbrook in the Upper Hunter area of New South Wales. What's your earliest memory of the Newcastle Motordrome?
The earliest memories of the Motordrome is getting there early. Just waiting for Dad. There's some fond memories of the sedan tests. They were always energised the crowd. Good battles back in the day. John, Ron Fine, Bob Brewer, Don McEwen, Stewie Robinson, Alan Bate, just the list of names of sedan people goes on. I was fortunate enough, Dad raced a few American sedan tests in Gunnedah. He never got a crack in Newcastle, he ran one in Sydney, so to watch Dad racing against the Americans was pretty cool. I still remember Steve Beitler coming out and grabbed Dad in the infield one night at Gunnedah and said, come on, young fella, let's put a rattle on for this crowd. And Dad looked at him and shook his head as if to say, you're dreaming, pal.
Yeah. So all those areas. And did you race anything as a kid, or was leader sprint cars your first taste of racing altogether?
No, leader sprint car was the first thing that I had a drive of. The first meeting I tried it was at Gunnedah Speedway. Went out my first race, and as I was getting lapped, one car come down the inside and drove up over the left rear wheel and bent all the front end, and I got out of the car after that race and said to Dad, that's it, you can have it, I'm not doing it again.
Yeah. And, so how old were you then? You would have been 16?
Yeah, I was 17.
Just 17, yep. So that was about 1993, about that?
What was that, sorry mate?
It's probably around 1993, was that when you first started?
Yeah.
So, okay, all right. And so what was the moment then? Like, as I said, it was a pretty eventful start. What, you were just like, I don't want to do this sort of thing? Were you scared or intimidated, or what was the emotions?
Yeah, I was obviously, felt fairly nervous. And then when I got run over by the lap rock, it really it did scare me, and I didn't get back in the car for another 6 months. I got in by myself at the end of a race meeting in Gilgandra and just had a practice by myself and started to feel more comfortable. And then I haven't really been out of the seat that much since. We've had a few years off here and there, but I've been trying to race wherever I could then.
So what got your confidence back? Do you remember the driver that ran over you? Because it could have been over before it had begun.
Yeah, it was actually there was two of them racing side by side. A good friend of ours from Moree, Colin Bell and Mel Guy, who was
two of the legends of
really hot shots at the time, and they were racing for the lead. And I just happened to be there. All fair and love and war in the game, and just it scared me a little bit. So, but once I had a few laps by myself on the track out of Gilgandra, just to get a feel for it, like I say, I started to enjoy it a lot more then, and here we are.
Yeah, and when you were like the mid-90s to late 90s, that was the heyday for leader cars, which are now known as Lightning Smiths for people that might not know that. What was it like? Because in New South Wales alone, there was 4 or 5 clubs, wasn't there, at that stage? You had a Northwest club, which you were a member of, but then you had a South Coast, a Sydney club, a Wollongong club, and there was plenty of racing.
Yeah, there was lots of the 4 clubs or so in New South Wales. The competition in Queensland was also very strong.
Yeah.
Back in them days, when Jake first started, we'd go to Brisbane and race at Archerfield, and you'd roll in there and guys like Dean McComb and Michael G, Patrick Moroney, Darren Jensen, and they'd get lapped in an 8-lap beat race, and we thought, wow, we had that much to learn. And then we kept going back up there to race against them guys, and then when I started, we kept going back up there, and that's how we got better, because we went up there and we raced them better guys. And then obviously in the heyday, like you say, the late 90s and that with the leader cars, we'd have an Australian title with 60 cars, and it was, you had to be on the game to make the show. It was really enjoyable racing. There was a great social side to it. Obviously with 4 clubs there was some political bickering, which you get with everything. But at the end of the race meeting, we'd sit down, we'd have a beer, we'd socialise. It was really good. A lot of enjoyable times from back in the leader car days. Yeah,
you certainly had some pretty fierce rivalries. One of them was with Nathan Smee, who's one of the most versatile speedo racers in the modern era. Tell us a bit about your rivalry between the Smee family and the Wright family.
Yeah, Nathan was a very fierce competitor and still is. If he gets back in the midget today, he's still a very fierce competitor, very smooth driver. And when we started, like I said, Dean McComb, Michael G, Darren had moved on to sprint cars before I started. The late Patrick Moroney, he was one of the best leader car drivers getting around. It was just a great deal of fun, really. And most of them guys, it's funny now when we go to Queensland and you're talking to Michael, but I'm racing his son. It really makes you feel like an old man.
Exactly. And also Dean McComb spinning the spanners for Mitchell. So there's quite a connection there.
Yes.
Yeah, so with that, and obviously your highlights in leader sprint cars were 2 Australian titles. Your first one was the year 2000. The second one was the following year at Newcastle on home soil. How close had you been before you cracked it for that first one at Toowoomba in the year 2000?
I think we finished second 2 or 3 years before that, and then nearly at every Australian title we were one of the fastest cars. And one year at Newcastle we broke a torsion stop on the second lap, and the next year at Toowoomba we were leading and the car jumped out of gear. And so it took us a while to finally crack an Australian title. And actually the night we won it, I don't believe we were the fastest car. So Nathan was a bit quicker and Wayne Moller was a bit quicker, but we managed to get the win, so that was good. And then the next year to back it up in Newcastle was very good. I was very fortunate that I didn't have a leader car at that stage, and good friends of ours from Brisbane, Colin and Linda White, they let me drive their car. We were lucky enough to defend it, and obviously Scotty Daly ran second that night, so that was a good thing. Scotty was another very fierce competitor in the leader car days and a true gentleman.
Yeah, yeah. And during that time in the late 90s, you also had a dabble in speed cars. Your first speed car drive, was that running for the Dark family in about 1997?
I had a drive for a gentleman called Eddie Burke. It was had a V4 Sesco. That was the first car that I drove. Yeah. And then we were lucky enough to get a drive in the Dark family midget, which is, it's one of the most famous midgets in speed car racing in Australia. So,
because that was the car that Rushy won the last two Sydney Showground meetings in '96, wasn't it?
Yep, that was the exact car. I had a few seasons in that. Travelled around a little bit, had a lot of fun. We were very fortunate that Edward chose the base because I was only a young fella in the leader cars. There was some wild moments, so he took a fair gamble in putting us in the car. We had some good nights with Edward. He taught me a lot about maintenance and that type of stuff on the cars, and you can't just turn up on Saturday night and expect to race. So it was a good learning experience. Also got to drive for Gerard Burke from the Infinity race cars in Newcastle. So we were lucky enough to actually get a win in Sydney one night driving for Gerard. So that was a good night.
Because you're also part of the inaugural Speed Car Super Series, weren't you, back in the day?
Yes, we had done a bit of travelling around with the Super Series. There was, like I say, that Super Series has been going a long time. Obviously, it's a great thing for midgets. We jumped on board, obviously, to get around, try some new tracks, to get more experience. Edward was happy enough for us to go on the road and do that type of stuff. So it was a great time.
I also recall you were you held the one-lap record at Valvoline Raceway, then known as Parramatta City Raceway. But is it true that your one-lap track record there was faster than Stephen Graham's at the time in the speed cars, or pretty much similar, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very similar to the speed car lap record at the time, and I think they tell me it's only just been broken in the last 12 months or so. So it stood around for a little bit, that track record. So
how did that help you when you transitioned, like when you jumped into the speed car?
Similar sized car, obviously with the wing it was totally different than the horsepower of the midget, but there's still the open wheel factor that you got into trouble and touched wheels. It hurts a lot more in a speed car. So you try to treat them with a little bit more respect. In saying that, they are probably one of the most fun forms of speedway I reckon you could ever drive. They put on a great race, and the guys, you can get in really close and hustle one another. They are one of the true entertainment packages in speedway on a good night at speed cars, that's for sure.
Did you feel that speed cars made you a better driver?
I think it did. You've got to be smooth with the throttle because obviously they're fairly easy to spin the tyres and then spin out. And the constant sideways thing, so it's a controlled slide. It was totally different than a leader car, which it did take me a while to get used to. But the throttle control was the main thing coming from the leader car, so you just didn't spin the tyre and then spin it out. So 2004, you stepped into sprint cars, but obviously there was a bit of hiatus there from your racing after you'd won your second title in 2001. What were you doing in those years, between 2001 and when you finally stepped into sprint cars in 2004? Yeah, we dabbled a little bit between 2001, occasionally in a speed car. We bought our own speed car, and then we had a bit of a tough run, and financially things weren't that good. It happens to most people in the speedway game, and I sold up. We sold our speed car, and the only thing we had left was the truck. And I spent actually was in London on working holiday. I got a visa and was going to be over there for 2 years. And Dad rang up and said, "There's a gentleman that wants you to drive his sprint car." And I said, "Oh, that's all sounds good, but I'm not just going to fly home on a whim." And conversations flowed back and forth, and Dad said, "Well, there's a sprint car at home in the shed. You better come home." So we got a ticket, come back home, and virtually landed. And then the next weekend we were in Sydney having our first race.
So how old were you then? You would have been in your late 20s?
No, it would have been mid mid-20s.
Mid-20s, yeah.
Yeah, mid to late 20s, yeah.
So tell us a bit about how this deal with the sprint car came about. Who was the guy and who, how did this offer all come together?
The gentleman's name was Peter Campbell, I'm pretty sure. It was from down Wollongong Way.
Okay. So not the Peter Campbell as in one of your lightning sprint rivals from up in Queensland?
No.
Not quite that? Yeah.
Yeah, he just approached Dad. Obviously, the Lennerys and them type of guys for the leader cars. They might have helped and put a word in for us, which was much appreciated. The conversation just flowed. He turned up. We bought a VW car off EW2, that ex-Avenger that Robbie had driven, and then they bought it was just at the transition of the 410 and the 372 motors, and he bought a 372, and away we went down there, and we got about 5 or 6 nights in, and then unfortunately we had a bit of an engine capitulation, and it sort of put it on hold we thought it was going to be an indefinite on hold, and then that was one of the first years of the Outlaws Down Under, and me, Mum and Dad sat down and had a bit of a discussion, and we ended up purchasing a Gertie engine off the Brandon Wimmer team out here, and put it into his car and done a few more shows, and that was virtually the first season. We only got about 8 or 9 shows in the first season just to wet our feet, and then from the next year on we started the family team and we were back into it.
So tell us a bit about the experience of getting behind the wheel of a sprint car before. Obviously you've raced some pretty fast things in later sprint cars and speed cars, but what was it like for getting behind the wheel of a 410 or a 372, even though it was a sprint car back then? But were you nervous? Were you excited? What were the emotions leading up to your first outing in a sprint car?
Definitely nervous. Obviously, something different. Drive was the first time I've driven a sprint car, so definitely nervous, excited, all the emotions really bundled up into one. And then actually the first heat, the track was pretty lucky. It was fairly breezy, so we could ease our way into it for the first heat race. And then as the night went on, the track got heavier and faster. And I remember the first time we got into the A main, which I think we scraped in on the first night, there was a red light about halfway through the race, and I said to Dad, I just couldn't hold my head up. Just the physical G-forces and the physicality of the car was like nothing I've ever experienced before. So that was the main thing, just how physical they were and how easy they turned left. Coming from a midget or a leader car where you've really got to turn the car to get it into the corner. With the sprint car, you thought about turning it in, and next thing you're up across the infield, running over the flag, and they just turn into the corner that quick.
Yeah. And how was that? Because obviously you've been a bit underdone. You weren't racing that much. What did you take from the leader car and your speed car experience into the sprint car?
The basics around the setup of the cars and the maintenance and all that was all the same.
Yeah.
The driving was, the basics of it's fairly similar. Obviously, like I say, the sprint car will turn into the corner a lot more, but it's just the sheer physicality and the sheer horsepower that you have to. We were fairly lucky with the 372 that made the transition a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But just the main thing was, like I say, just getting used to keeping them big tyres under you, because once they get away, it can cause you some trouble.
Yeah. And so once you finished with Peter Campbell and went out to your own deal, that was the following season after 2004, where you just went out and done your own deal with the family?
Yeah, that's when we went out with the family then the next year.
So what goes into that? What decisions, because obviously the budget, so it would have been tight, it would have been tough. Like, how does the decision to get you across the line to go, okay, we're going to run our own team?
Well, basically we had an engine, and sort of we had to make a decision. It was either sell the engine or dive back into the sport, and we were enjoying it. So once again, myself, Mum and Dad sat down and we decided that we'd have a go at it, and we just, with the 410, it was only in Sydney at that stage, so we could just go to Sydney every Saturday night and see how we went. And so we just started chipping away. We were, at the time when the 410s first come in, it was actually a little bit cheaper to buy a good 410 and a good 372, so that helped us with some money towards the roller, and we just slowly started accumulating some race cars and some spares, and it just grew into where we're at now, really.
Yeah. So okay. So your first one of your first seasons, so you finished inside the top 10 of the point score. Was that the first season as the family-run team?
Yeah, I think we had some not bad results early on. So we scraped into the top 10 here and there,
and you won the Most Improved Driver Award at one of the presentations of the 2006 season.
Yeah.
So,
the first full season was Most Improved Driver, so that was good. Just get a little bit of recognition from the club, I suppose, and your peers, that people can see that you're improving and you're trying. That's always a good feeling.
Yeah. How did you find joining the sprint car ranks from, because it's a pretty cliquey sort of place, especially here in Sydney. How did you find when you stepped in there? Because obviously you're probably well known for your leader car and your speed car exploits. How did you find stepping into the sprint car family?
It was all right. There's one thing with the sprint car club. You can turn up and do your thing, or you can be as social as you want, or as anti-social as you want, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
The club were pretty good. All the promotion and the commentary teams and all that at Sydney through the whole time that we've been down there racing, the leader cars, speed cars, the sprint cars have been very proactive. So obviously coming from another division, that was helpful. There was a little bit probably of exposure more than we deserved at the time.
Yeah.
So, but that's a fun part of the game too. Talking on the microphone and socialising, interacting with the commentators in the crowd. So I enjoy that part of it. But coming into the sprint car club, it was, open arm welcome. I'm happy to have anyone there to race. Really, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Especially a big turning point within the sprint car scenes, particularly in Sydney, with them going out first with the 410s and Brian Healy really grabbing the bull by the horn sort of thing and just going, this is what we're doing sort of thing. So it was an exciting time back then.
Yeah, it was.
And with that, and then so tell us a bit about your first, you've only had one career feature race win in sprint cars, haven't you?
Yeah,
and that was 2008 at Gunnedah.
Yeah, we got a country show club win at Gunnedah, which was that was pretty good. Fairly excited, obviously, to get a first win. It wasn't the biggest sprint car field in Australia, but it doesn't matter. These things to win anywhere on any night are fairly tough, so we were pretty happy. I thought when we first started that I've obviously been doing it for 12, 13, maybe 15 years now. I've lost track.
Yeah.
We might have got a couple more, but it just hasn't turned out that way. But it was very excited to get that first win. Pretty good. Dad was happy.
Yeah. Do you feel that, did you go in there, your expectations when you stepped into sprint cars, knowing that it's the pinnacle of Speedway, did you feel that you would have more success in sprint cars than you had, or did you soon find out straight away they go, oh, well, this is really tough?
We found out fairly well straight away that it was tough. I was under no illusions that we were going to come in and dominate the sport. I knew it was going to be tough, but it opened my eyes up a little bit more than what I expected. The level of competition in Sydney, and then even when we started to venture away from Sydney, when to Brisbane and down south, the level of competition, you don't get nothing given to you when you're racing these cars. You've really got to work for every position on the track, and that was a major difference too from the leader car, or even to a lesser extent the speed car. Speed cars are very competitive, but at that stage it might have been 15 speed cars, and then you get Sydney in the sprint car where there's 40 that are battling each week. So the intensity in the competition was definitely a step up, and probably a little bit more of a step up than what I thought. But like I say, we quickly learned that it was going to be a very hard school.
Yeah, and that's something that you don't back away from. You're a really determined racer, as I said in the intro, but you certainly love a challenge. The family loves the challenge. Tell us a bit about the whole family and how it all comes together, because it's a whole family deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a family deal. Like I say, it all started with Dad. Obviously, he raced, and then I started when I've been going away. It's been me, Dad, my sister, and my nephew have always pretty well gone the whole time, and my girlfriend or wife now, Holly, she's been with me virtually since I've started racing. So, and now when we go, it's Dad, my sister, my nephew, my wife, my two kids. I've had the same crewman from Sydney, Moose. He's been with me since Speedcars, Sprintcars. He's a close family friend of Dad. He's been there the whole time. People like the extended family, if you will, like Mick Walker from UV Signs. He's been signing right now cars forever. It's sort of just, it is a family team, and to the point where, expenses have been shared amongst the family to keep us going. I've been very lucky that Mum, Dad, and my sister and my wife have believed in me to, because it does take a lot of money to run these cars, that they've been willing to sacrifice things so I can keep playing, because after all, I'm the one that gets to have all the fun. They get to enjoy a little bit of watching, but in the end, I get the most enjoyment. So for them to back me for the whole time, it's pretty good. I can't really thank them enough, and that's another good thing about Speedway. We're not the only family team like that. The pits is littered with family teams like that are there every Saturday night enjoying time with one another. It's really good.
Yeah, and with the sacrifices. So with your job, so you work in the mines, Andrew?
Yeah, I actually work for Hitachi, and we obviously build mining equipment for the mines. So there's times there are a couple of seasons where we could only race 2 weekends a month because I'm working a roster, and you're working 2 weekends and 12-hour shifts and night shifts, and that's just part of what I had to do. And bear in mind, Dad was doing the same type of things. He was working in the mines and subcontracting to the mines, doing days and nights, and that's just what we had to do so we could go and enjoy the sport that we love.
Yeah. And what was the decision behind going on the road? Because, you pretty much after you picked up that first win at Canada in 2008, you pretty much would go north and south. Was that just based on wanting to get more experience, or just your scheduling with work, reason why you did a lot of travelling?
Definitely to try and get more experience. When we first started racing Ludy cars, I think the first 6 or 7 times I raced, I was at a different track. You learn more at different tracks, and so we tried to apply that same theory to the sprint car when we could get away with the engine capacity change. And then there's just the other social side of it. We've done a lot of our early travelling to Queensland, to Toowoomba and Archfield, a few Maryborough shows. We had a lot of friends still there from the leader car days that were racing sprint cars, so there was that social side of it that made it enjoyable. And there's one thing about Dad, he loved to travel. He would travel anywhere around Australia for a race, and it's something that I've picked up, and that's just what we've done. If there's a race meeting on and we've got enough silver to get there, we'll try and get there and come back home and go back to work and do it again next week.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about life on the road when you're doing those long miles. Like we'll touch a bit on World Series in a moment, but tell us a bit about what goes into travelling on the road, because people hear about it, but they don't really know too much about it. What is life on the travel? Because in order to save expenses, you sleep in the truck and you drive overnight. Like, I'm assuming that's what you guys do in order to save money.
Yeah, it's not the most glamorous lifestyle when you get down in the nitty gritty of it. Like last weekend, for example, we left Muswellbrook at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning, drove through to Toowoomba, raced, then jumped straight back in the truck, turned around and got back to near Armidale on the way home, had a sleep on the side of the road for an hour, and then got up, had breakfast, and then come back home. So we were home by 11 o'clock Sunday morning, and then you wash the car. So, but in that time, I drive, Dad drives, you're sitting up with the crew, and I sit up with my nephew, and we just just shoot the breeze and talk about stuff, not only race cars, about other stuff. So that's where a lot of the fun comes into it. You're spending time with the family, with friends, seeing plenty of the countryside and just seeing good racing is an added bonus.
So it leads into now World Series, the 2014-15 season. You went on as a contractor driver. How did that all come together? Obviously sponsorship, time of work. What was the reason behind wanting to join World Series as a contractor driver for the first time back in 14-15 season?
Myself and Dad had always dreamed about having a go at doing World Series. Obviously, Darren Jensen from the leader car days when World Series had come to Newcastle, I'd always try to go down there and help in his pit crew, and it's just a dream that we had. And we've slowly been accumulating some cars and some spares and that type of stuff, and we put our name in the hat for a contract, really not thinking that we'd get a start. And then when it did, well, it snowballed from there, and we just basically worked there was a 2 year or more longer putting the stuff together and accumulating the cars and just hoping that one day we'd get a crack. But it was a big undertaking. People tell you how difficult it is, and they're not lying. It is definitely one of the most difficult things that we've done. Obviously, when we done the tour, it was myself and Dad done all of it together. So he had to take some long service, I took some long service. So we were fortunate enough that our employers gave us the time to do that. And it's the time away from my mum and my wife and my kids. So we tried to structure our holidays around that. So when we were out in Western Australia, the Australian title was on, for example, Holly and the kids, they come over and we had a holiday between that week. So I couldn't do that with the family and involve them. It just wouldn't be possible.
No,
so
exactly.
That's what makes it enjoyable. We're away with the family, we're seeing other places and just meeting people. We got a lot of help the first year that we done World Series with places to work on cars and just a bit of advice about where to go, where to eat, what to do. It really is. It's a great experience, but there's a lot of work involved in it.
Yeah, exactly. And how did you find life on the road first? Because you were really quick in the heat races, but then the feature races was, where it was a bit of a struggle, wasn't it?
Yeah, we struggled that first year. We had some different cars that we bought that me being cool in all the setup shots, I couldn't get a handle on them. Beautiful made race car, but I couldn't seem to be consistent in them. So that made it hard. And then it snowballs. You have a bad night, then another bad night, another bad night, and you start beating yourself up and getting down on yourself, start questioning yourself. Why are we doing this? We shouldn't be here. We're looking bad. But I think persevering through it and that type, just chipping away, there was improvement in us by the end of the series. I know when we got back to Sydney, we were a lot more competitive when we got back home. So it was a struggle, but I definitely wouldn't change it. I'd do it all again if we had the chance.
And so what happened in the following season? You didn't do World Series the following season? You had a bit of a break?
Yes, the following season we were contemplating trying to do it again, but work-wise for both myself and Dad got very busy. So obviously for us to go and play, we've got to be able to work first. So we made the decision to stay and race a little bit locally. We've still done a few World Series shows here and there where we could, but it was too much of a hassle work-wise to try and push it to do it. So that's one thing I did learn by doing it the first year, that if you can't be committed 100% and ready to do it properly, it's not something you really want to try and take on in a half-baked effort. So that's why we decided not to do it the second season. Okay,
so then, last season, 16-17 season, you got back on board. Obviously, World Series was going for a bit of a restructure for that season. It was a bit up in the air of the future of World Series and all those sort of things, but you got on board. I think you were one of 6 contractor drivers last season, I think it was.
Yeah, we were one of the 6. Obviously, World Series last season, the 30th year, obviously would have been wonderful if they had the car count and that they've got this year, but it wasn't to be. So we were fortunate enough once again to get a gig, and we tried to tackle it as best we could. And I'm a big believer in World Series. As a Speedway fan, a sprint car fan, I love it, and as a competitor, I think it's the pinnacle of our sport. And that's what we strive to try and get there and do it. Obviously, that's why we put our hand up again, because it's just, I think it's the best thing in Australian Speedway, really.
How prepared did you go in second time around? Obviously, a lot more because you've been there and done it.
Yeah, we were a lot more prepared. We had cars were ready earlier. We had a few more races in the cars before the season. We knew where the tracks were. We knew where the car washes were. We knew we had places to stay. We had stuff set up a lot better. We learned a bit about even put stuff in the truck and what to do at the track before you wash, and just to try and optimise your time. So we were definitely a lot more prepared. And as it turned out with the run that we had, well, we had to be, because we didn't have the best season at all.
Yeah, exactly. How mentally more prepared were you? Tell us a bit about the mental game and how you need to. Is that something that you've evolved with, getting better as mentally as it comes with experience for sprint cars?
That's the biggest thing. If you're, as I'm finding out a little bit the last few weeks, if you've got confidence in the car and you're not second guessing yourself or what decision you made, and you just go out and drive it full of confidence, they're a lot better to drive, and the results obviously tend to reflect that. So the second year we were a lot more confident. We changed back to Maxim chassis, and I felt more comfortable in the cars myself. So leading in, and we've had some good runs going into the start of World Series at local competition in Sydney and Toowoomba. And, so mentally, actually, I was feeling a lot better the second year. Like I said previously, it really didn't turn out to end that way. It sort of topped, by the time we had to pull out of World Series with my back, mentally, I'd pretty well taken a fair beating. So
take us through that, Andrew. Like, it was everything that could have went wrong. It started with World Series. I think round one was at Sydney, wasn't it? That was in November.
Sorry, mate, I missed that.
Sorry, for World Series last season, the round one was in Sydney at Valvoline Raceway, and then it went straight into Speedway, didn't it?
Yeah, it started in Murray Bridge.
Murray Bridge, that got rained out, yep.
Then we had Sydney, Toowoomba and Brisbane. So we had 4 shows before Speed Week. And, we'd had mixed results, but going into Speed Week, we were fairly confident. But unfortunately, Speed Week didn't work out to be too friendly for us on that occasion.
Yeah. Would you count, everything that could have went wrong did go wrong, sort of thing? When you zigged, you should have zagged, sort of thing. What was that Speed Week like? Would you count it as one of, the biggest disappointments of your career, or do you find it or you're proud because you continue to strive on?
Oh, it was very disappointing, don't get me wrong. We took, physically, financially, mentally, we took a beating over that 5-7 nights or whatever it was. We raced 4 nights because we got one washed out, and I managed to roll the thing over 5 times. We had to rebuild. We had 2 frames with us. We had to rebuild one of them cars twice and the other one once. It was just, like I say, anything that could go wrong probably did. Some of the circumstances were my fault, some of them weren't. That's part of sprint car racing. But in saying that, I think we showed our commitment and our passion towards World Series, because we didn't turn our toes up. We kept fixing it. We kept coming back because we'd made the commitment to do World Series, and I was going to honour that for as long as we could. Unfortunately, in Brisbane, I hurt myself and we couldn't continue on. But that Speed Week to Brisbane, we put a lot of work in, and not just myself. I'm not blessed with the youngest pit crew. The 3 people that come away with me, 2 of them were over 65, and the other gentleman was in his 50s. And we rebuilt a race car 3 times in 4 days, and they worked their tails off with me. So I'm pretty proud of the effort that we put in, and I think it earned us a fair bit of respect from not only the World Series people, but I know I got more encouragement through our Facebook site and people just coming up and talking, offering to help. Like we had people in Warrnambool that picked up a chassis from John Cooley's and dropped it back to the motel where we were staying. And just an unbelievable amount of help, which proves to me how good our sport is. You know what I mean?
And is that what?
And that's what makes our sport is the people like that. They'll when you're down, they'll come and touch you on the back and try and get you back up to keep you going.
Yeah. And is that one of the things where you get your determination from? Like, obviously, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because your dad, Ray, who's well known as Mort, his determination, you certainly get it from him, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I think I do. He was fairly determined for us to keep going. He's always been a determined type of guy. But so is Mum. Mum's a very determined character. She's 65. She'd probably get upset with me saying that. She still plays touch football. She still plays basketball. She still plays netball.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So she's determined to keep going in her. You know, that's a pretty good effort. I'd like to still be able to do it when I get to that age. So I think I'm fairly lucky that I'm blessed with a fairly determined personality from Mum and Dad. So
it comes from both sides, so that's a great thing. And you certainly need determination when it comes to sprint cars. So tell us a bit about the injury, Andrew, and how it happened. Was that as a result of a lot of crashes, or was it just that one crash that at Archerfield that done the job?
I think the crashes down south obviously wouldn't help. The one at Avalon where we went in the wall backwards, I was a little bit stiff and sore, but the one that was actually in a heat race in Brisbane, the car bicycled up, and then when it come down, it slammed the chassis rails down on the ground, and obviously no suspension, no give. The first thing that gives is the body, and it was just an instant pain all down the right side. And come back in, I said to Dad, gee, that hurt. And we finished the night and washed the car, and then the next day I said to Holly, because I'd had a few back injuries over time from work and rugby league, and I said, there's something not right here. It's not normal. I couldn't sleep from the pain, and obviously we went to the hospital and they done the MRIs and X-rays, and it's not the best feeling when you're sitting there and they tell you they're gonna email the results to the neurosurgeon, and then within 5 minutes they're back and they say the neurosurgeon's on his way in to see you. Put some dark thoughts into your head. What are you going to do here? What's happening? But we're fairly fortunate. It's a lower disc injury. The disc prolapse, which comes out, and it was rubbing on the sciatic nerve, which was why the pain was all down the right side from my lower back to my ankle. It took a while to settle down, and then it flared up a few times since. So it's something I'm going to have to manage, I think, for the rest of my life. I'll be honest, I'm a bit nervous about going to have surgery, which at one stage it looked like I was going to. I'm just trying to get through, do a bit of swimming, a bit of core strength work to try and keep the muscles healthy enough so it doesn't let anything slip out of shape, and then it starts rubbing again. So whatever I can keep physical enough and active enough to keep everything in a line, I will, and that'll prevent us from having surgery.
So that's the thing. So just like a footballer, all these injuries, you've just got to maintain them, sort of thing. It's not something that you.
That's basically all I can do, mate. Is just try and maintain it, try and look after myself as best I can. Obviously, there's always something else you can do, but touch wood, the last 7 or 8 weeks since we've been back in the car, it's been fairly good. It hasn't pulled up sore at any stage, so it's not hurting. We'll keep racing. I'm also the neurosurgeon that I had. He was actually very good. He said, where you've hurt yourself, there's no risk of paralysis or anything like that in that particular area. So he did say to me, if you want to keep racing, you can, and I got the all clear. So it's not something that we're going against doctor's orders or anything. He just virtually said, go and live your life and manage it as best you can.
Yeah, exactly. You're certainly doing that. So this season, tell us a bit about the off-season for yourself. It's just been is it rest, recovery and strength, just keeping fit? Has that been to get you out on the track for this season?
Yeah, that was basically it, trying to do a bit of recovery, get the body back into shape, and then while all that was happening, I was also in the back of my mind trying to and working on the cars to get the cars repaired to try and go racing again this season. I intended to go back out on World Series this season because I didn't want to leave it the way I did the season before. The World Series officials were very good to us with what happened. They understood our situation, and I wanted to repay them, if you would. And we're actually at the stage where we all had pen to paper on the contract, ready to go back, and my back actually flared up again. So it was another 8-week episode before I could physically get in and work on the cars and that type of stuff. So I had to not do World Series, which was frustrating, but I explained to Sean and the team that I wasn't confident that my back could go through the whole series and not play up again, and I didn't want to let the series down because it's not a good look for myself or the series.
No, exactly.
But as it turns out, World Series this year, 16 contracted teams. It's on the up with some great young talent, with some superstars back. It's in very good hands. Again, if anything, it's definitely shaping up to be one of the best series for World Series. So I wish all them guys the best of luck. We wish we were there, but we're going to enjoy ourselves racing in Valvoline Raceway. There's still plenty of competition there, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So the past fortnight for yourself, so your first couple of shows, you were getting in there, you didn't get into the, you didn't get out of the B on your first show or your second show, was that correct?
Yeah, the first night we come back, we were probably woeful is the best term to use. I was very gun shy in the car and just couldn't get comfortable. I think it was just the mental side of it. I suppose I was trying to look after myself, but it wasn't doing anything right. And then the second week we come back and we didn't qualify real good. And then in the heat race, I got in a bit of a spirited race, a bit of side-by-side racing, and then I started to drive the car properly. And then it all started to come back, and things have been on the up since.
Since you got fifth at Valvoline Raceway a fortnight ago, was that, I think off the top of my head, that's your best finish there, or have you had a fourth place finish at Parramatta once?
Yeah, I've had a fourth one at Parramatta many years ago. So
in the early days.
That's the best one I've had there for a long time. So that was another good night. So like I say, we've only done the 4 shows this year, and it's looking at a steady improvement each night. So I'm pretty happy with how the year's going so far. Yeah,
exactly. It can only get better. And last Saturday night's run at Toowoomba's High Tech Horse Speedway for the third round of the USC Queensland Championship. You ended up getting a podium, but you certainly didn't luck that podium. You put it on the front row, and you led the early stages of the feature race fighting with Robbie Farr. How was that for yourself?
It was really good. It was not going to say it was a surprise, but I was very happy with how we went. The car was obviously very good all night. We timed well, we heat raced well. Then in the feature we went well. I was very happy to run third, and we had a reasonably good battle with Robbie at the start, and then we had a very good battle with Luke midway through the race. Unfortunately, like I say, we run third, which I'm very happy with that. But then the competitive spirit comes out in you, and then I watched the replay of the pay-per-view the next night, and you think, if I had done this, we could have done that. The frustration comes in that potentially we might have got second, we may have lucked into a win, but I think if you haven't got that type of attitude where you're always trying to improve, you're probably it's time to give it up. So it's just yeah, very happy with the result, and hopefully, I'd like to say we're going to get a few more this year, but I'm smart enough to know that may not happen, but we'll definitely be giving it our best every time we're on the track.
Would you count last weekend's result as a career, as probably your best performance in sprint cars over the 12 years?
Yeah, I'd say last Saturday night was probably one of we put a whole night together. We've had other times where we've had a good,
bits and pieces.
But we've had that one off race during the night, but last Saturday night we managed to string, some pretty good laps together for most of the feature. So we heat raced well. So it's definitely one of the more consistent nights we've had in our career, that's for sure. Yeah.
So looking ahead for the future, obviously, as you know, nothing's promised in terms of the future. Do you take it season by season now, or what's the future look like for Andrew Wright and the Wright Racing team?
We'll finish off this year just racing predominantly in Sydney, Toowoomba. I believe we're going to try and get down to the Classic this year, and then I've still got the burning ambition to have another go at World Series and try and get a full year. I feel like they were, like I said before, they were very good to me. I feel like I owe it to them to try and finish the series. Maybe I'm being a little bit pig-headed, but it's something that Dad and myself want to do. We want to have another go at it. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen. We're still working towards it, and hopefully one day we'll achieve that. But if we don't, I've got a few more good years left in me, I think. Racing in Sydney, Toowoomba, Brisbane, just doing a pick and choose type of schedule. And then my young fella, he's 10 now, so I've got a few more years. He's showing a little bit of an interest. He keeps telling me he wants to go-kart and that type of stuff. So we'll probably look at doing something with him in the near future.
This is going to be a third generation Wright Racing racer.
I hope so. I think we're probably going to go down the path maybe of looking at the junior Formula 500 thing. I think they can start when they're 12 or 13. So.
Because your nephew Justin, Beck's son, he raced a junior sedan for a little bit, didn't he? Many years ago.
Yeah. Justin had a few races in a junior sedan. He enjoyed his time, but he never really had the opportunity to do anything else. Obviously, with me racing a sprint car, it's very hard to fund anything else. So, Justin's probably missed out a little bit there, but he's an integral part of our team. He comes away with us every week, helps out where he can. He does all the Facebook, the social media side of it and that for me. So he's, like I say, he's a very important part of the team. He probably doesn't realise how much he does and doesn't get thanked enough, like most family race teams do, but they're a very important part of our team.
He's certainly one of the loudest, isn't he?
Yeah.
You can probably hear him from when you're racing.
He's a very, very loud individual. He's passionate about sprint car racing. Obviously, he's very passionate about how we go. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Andrew, well, I'll let you run now. So thank you very much for your time. It was a great chat, and I think a lot of people have got a lot out of it in terms of what it takes to race and what you've gone through to achieve what you are achieving, and there's still plenty more to achieve, isn't there?
No worries, mate. Thanks for having us.
Okay, wonderful. No worries, then. And good luck for the rest of the season.
No problem.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, that completes the Night of Conversations programs presented by LA Racing Lubricants, but I really enjoyed that. Got a lot out of Andrew Wright, and that's the part of this Conversations program, chatting with drivers, different drivers, not just the ones that are always running up the front, the superstars, but the ones like determination. And I think Andrew Wright and his team, determination is their middle name. So thanks guys once again. Thanks LA Racing Lubricants for the support. I'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30 for the weekly Q&A program. So thanks guys for tuning in. See you. Bye.